Is Ohio State's biggest question on offense with the new quarterback, or on defense trying to stop a guy who ran for like 1,000 yards in one game this year? Doug Maurice with Ari Wasserman and Bill Landis here at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, getting ready for the Big Ten championship game, Ohio State versus Wisconsin on Saturday. Ari, Ohio State's in a lot of flux for a team that has won 11 games this year and won the East Division and is 8-0 in the Big Ten, and has questions about its run defense against basically the best running back in the country and a quarterback who's never played before. So anyway, which side of the ball do you think people should be most concerned about when it comes to Ohio State Saturday?
I'm going to ask you a question back. Who's favored?
I didn't want to spoil it because we know you like to talk about it on Tuesday morning. Wisconsin is favored.
Who would have been favored if JT didn't get injured?
Ohio State by, I'd say, a touchdown.
There's your answer, in my opinion. I think Ohio State's defense was going to have its problems and was going to have to try to figure out a way to stop Gordon. Obviously, no matter who Wisconsin's playing, that's going to be an issue. And Ohio State did give some big numbers up to Tevin Coleman and Cobb from Minnesota. But I think the entire game changed because of one thing, and it's because Ohio State doesn't have their quarterback now. And I think a lot of people, we don't know a lot about Cardale Jones and what he's going to do in this type of environment. We wouldn't know how he would react in any start, let alone going into the Big Ten championship game. But I think Ohio State's offense took a huge step back. I think Wisconsin, regardless of how great Ohio State's defense or how bad it was going to get theirs. I think Gordon is going to rush for 100 yards, and that's just the way it is. But can Ohio State's offense put Ohio State in a position to win this game is the real question, in my opinion.
I'm very curious to see what Bill says on this. Bill, what do you got?
Can I say both?
Yeah, I mean,
both.
Actually, the answer is both.
Yeah.
But we're kind of making people pick.
Yeah, I think the more glaring issue has to be the quarterback. I know I said some things about the defense when we talked after the game on Saturday, and I think that is a real issue because no one's been able to stop Melvin Gordon, and Ohio State hasn't really shown it can stop any big-time running back. I know Tevin Coleman had the 90 and the 50-yard touchdowns that kind of bumped his numbers up a bit, but still, I mean, they happened. It's 90 and 50-yard touchdowns, and they happened because Ohio State made mistakes. But you can't ignore the fact that they lost their starting quarterback. And nobody knows how good Cardale Jones is going to be. They seem to be pretty happy, optimistic. I don't know. It could just be trying to talk him up a little bit. We don't know how good he's going to be. We've seen him play. He played extended time against Illinois when they were already up by 40 points, and he threw 2 touchdowns, and it was great. He threw a nice deep ball, but they were up by 50 points, and it was Illinois, and that game didn't mean anything. Now he's in the Big Ten championship against a very good defense. He has to prepare like a starter for the first time since he was in high school, since he was at Fork Union, I guess. This is the last time he had to prepare that way. He's got the weapons around him. I think Ohio State does have some pretty good skill guys there to put some points on the board, but whether or not Jones can get them the ball is still a huge mystery, and this is a good defense they're going against.
Thinking about this game, anticipating before the Michigan game that Wisconsin was going to be Ohio State's opponent. We knew Ohio State was going to be in this game, and it was going to be Wisconsin or Minnesota. I had been thinking to myself, I think Wisconsin might win that game anyway, even with JT Barrett. I had been thinking I might pick Wisconsin in that game because Joel Stave has played better lately. Wisconsin is not a completely one-dimensional offense, as much as Indiana would have been when they had Tevin Coleman and a guy whose mom is an actress as their quarterback. I mean, like, they just were not going to do anything actually throwing the ball. Wisconsin's going to be more of a threat, right, Bill? More of a threat than that.
Yeah, and they had the weird 2 quarterback thing going on, too, with Stave and Tanner McAvoy, but certainly, yeah, more of a throwing threat.
So I think you can make – I'm going to say the defense because – I think Melvin Gordon's that good. I feel bad. I think I gave Luke Fickell some Tim Biakabatuka flashbacks when I asked him about Melvin Gordon today, asking about, like, can you even imagine a 400-yard game? And it's like, well, I can imagine 300. He's really good. And Ohio State has had big, good running backs run on them. And frankly, this offense, even with JT Barrett, had been getting off to slow starts. I mean, I think that the last couple weeks, Ohio State against Indiana and Michigan, in the end, won and sort of pulled away, I think because they wore those teams down with better overall talent. I think Wisconsin is much closer to matching Ohio State talent for talent than either of those two teams were. Michigan, their offense fell apart when Drake Johnson got hurt. It turns out he tore his ACL in that game. Ohio State was saved not by its offense, but by a punt return against Indiana. So they already had offensive issues even before JT Barrett went out. So, I think a lot of this is going to come down to this defense has to be great, I think, to stop Melvin Gordon, because I don't know if the offense was going to outscore Wisconsin anyway. It's going to be harder to do it now. So I think this really is on the defense because, I don't know if you can try to win this game even with JT Barrett and especially with Cardale Jones. I don't know if you can try to win this 40-38. I think this defense has to stop Melvin Gordon, and I don't know if it can. I don't know if it can. I know I'm talking a lot about, there's offensive issues too. This game, I think, was in a lot of ways going to be on the defense anyway, and I think there are legitimate questions about whether the defense is up to that.
Yeah, and I think as much as we talk about Melvin Gordon, too, Wisconsin is going to try to throw the ball, and I think when they do, the defensive backs are going to be put in situations where they're going to have to defend one-on-one because all the attention is going to be on Melvin Gordon, and I don't know if they've had to do that yet this year, so it's another kind of unknown for the defense, whether or not when Wisconsin does throw the ball, or Ohio State's corners and safety is going to be able to match up with guys one-on-one.
Are we for sure that Ohio State's secondary issues are completely solved?
No, I mean, listen, let's take a step back here real quick. Ohio State is an excellent football team. We're not disputing that. The fact that we are even talking about that they win with a third quarterback, and we're not just like putting down the mic and saying it's over, they're out of it, they're on their third quarterback, they have no hope. 80% of the teams in the country on the third quarterback, you'd say, well, maybe they can keep it within 3 touchdowns. Ohio State's an excellent team. They've played great football all year. I think Wisconsin, it's hard to judge Wisconsin because they're not in the national title mix because they stopped giving the ball to Melvin Gordon in the second half against LSU, a game they looked like they were going to win, and then they lost their minds against Northwestern and had a ridiculous game that nobody at this point can explain. Northwestern's not even going to a bowl, and they beat Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's good, though.
I think Wisconsin is good, and the craziest thing to me, more so if you want to take, the step back and then move forward, if I would have told everybody in the world in spring ball last year, Ohio State's going to lose Braxton Miller, Dontre Wilson, Noah Spence, JT Barrett's going to be in the Heisman conversation by replacing Braxton Miller, then get injured in the Michigan game. Everybody like, well, how would their 5 losses be? So I think, and that's why I'm not necessarily sure I'm going to pick Wisconsin in this game. I think that Ohio State has the offensive weapons around Cardale to support him. I think that that's the bigger issue right now, though. The defense was going to be the defense no matter what. Ohio State's offense is kind of in crisis mode again. And to me, when you're scrambling 1 week into going into a game, that makes it a little bit more tricky.
All right, I'm going to leave you with this. Walking out with Tom Herman after interviews on Monday, just chatting with him, asking him how many head coaching job offers he's going to have this year. Is it 10 or 20? He was like shutting that down right away. He was asked about Jalen Marshall throwing the ball. How does Jalen Marshall throw it? And he said, better than you think. Better than you think. Jalen Marshall could be quite a factor in this game. It's going to be an interesting game. I don't think that, there's nobody that could sit here and say, Wisconsin's definitely going to win, or, Ohio State's going to be fine. I think this is going to be a good football game. I think the JT Barrett thing completely throws it up in the air, and to try to pretend that we know what Cardale Jones is going to do, nobody knows. I don't think Cardale Jones knows. I don't think Urban Meyer knows. I don't think Tom Herman knows. I don't think anybody knows. This is going to be quite a test for him. We'll have coverage all week here at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center for Ari Wasserman and Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises for cleveland.com.